Okay. So we'll call the meeting to order then and start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if everyone would stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Dina, would you like to call the roll?
Roll call. Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Tryon,
Here.
and Director Boston,
Here.
and Director Hansen.
Here.
Thank you.
So do I need to read this public participation information?
I did not receive any emails or phone calls requesting public participation.
Okay. We'll just, rather than read the whole thing, we'll say if you are viewing, if you want to view this, you can go to YouTube, to the town's YouTube address and take a look at what we're doing. And if you'd like to, you can send us comments by email or by phone at 872-5951. And that brings us to item number 3, review and discussion, town update. Are you giving that, Kevin?
For update, we're going to go to Mark Maddox for
Okay.
the sewer update, and then the road recovery update also.
Right.
Perfect.
Good morning, council and directors. Thank you so much for having me this morning for a few updates. As Town Manager Phillips mentioned, I will be providing an update on both the Town of Paradise sewer project as well as specific road projects and the broader vision for road recovery moving forward for Paradise. So with the sewer, the short story is we are moving forward and really starting the environmental impact report process for a direct connection to the City of Chico Water Pollution Control Plant for a defined sewer service area. That map of the sewer service area has not changed. It's been the same since 2017 and can be found at our website at paradisesewer.com. The website has been updated with all of the recent work that's taken place over the last 12 months and is continuing to be populated with the approach moving forward. So moving forward, we have established a new committee called the Sewer Regionalization Project Advisory Committee, SERPAC for short, and that committee is going to be facilitated by the Regional Water Board. Clint Snyder, the executive officer, assistant executive officer for the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board, is going to help us facilitate this process, and it's comprised of signatories of a cooperative work agreement between the City of Chico and the Town of Paradise. We have both named our vice mayor and our mayors for participants on the committee. The first meeting will be Monday, March 8th, a week from today, I believe at 1 p.m. And we are, this is going to be a remote meeting as well, and public participation is invited and encouraged as well. This will be a Brown Act compliant committee, and we'll have agendas and minutes posted for every single meeting, and we'll meet once a month on that. And that's in addition to our normal EIR process with the public scoping, draft document reviews, and general public outreach along the way as well. We anticipate the entire process to take about 18 months to move forward with a recommended final EIR, a draft EIR and a final EIR. The draft should be done by the end of 2021 with the final EIR 6 months later. So with that, the broader vision, there's been a lot of public feedback and community input. Again, if I could leave you with a vision for the sewer project, this is the time now, and now is the time or never, really. As the region continues to struggle with the ultimate housing crisis, we continue to be asked, how could Paradise respond with multifamily housing without a sewer? And the answer is we can't. So there's been a lot of progress there. We are so excited to receive grants and legislative support through the process, through the EIR, and we continue to seek funding otherwise. One of the other biggest questions is how are we going to pay for the next steps? We've identified right-of-way and design portions to be about 30 million, and construction to be 152 million. In the current sewer service area, we only have 300 standing structures, which would equate to about 90,000 gallons per day of flow. Obviously, 180 million to go does not pencil out across 300 standing structures, so we continue to work with our elected officials at the local, state, and federal level to look for a global solution to this project and ensure that we can find a path forward to outright fund the capital portion of the project to get it in the ground and get it done. When it comes to timing and schedule for, again, another vision for construction, we're definitely looking into years 2024 through 27. Anything sooner than that just would not be realistic. With that, I think I covered kind of the high points, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that I might have missed.
Before questions, could you address some of the misinformation about this project that's circulating out there?
Well, there's a lot to keep track of, so if I miss anything, feel free to jump out. So one, our two, and it's appropriate to bring this up here, we've heard a lot about, we've heard maybe there will be an update later in this portion of the agenda about a potential groundwater recharge effort between the town of Paradise and Paradise Irrigation District with an abundance in water supply, looking at an effort to sell that water and possibly use it for other beneficial regional issues. We've heard concern that these two projects are inexplicably tied to each other. Actually, one person approached me asking, why are we pumping treated wastewater into the groundwater? And I'm just like, no, that is not what's happening. And so this happens really quickly, especially when there isn't a cohesive message. And we're working on that, and we're glad to partner with you as well on anything we can do to clarify that. But these two projects are separate. One is, in general, wastewater that goes down the system and is treated and has an effluent and a solid, and we have management. We are looking with the city of Chico to partner on that because they have the infrastructure with the water pollution control plant. I'll let Paradise Irrigation District speak to the other, but that is treated water, drinking water, and looking at options for use that makes sense for the district. And so what complicated the messaging about these two projects was the introduction of AB 36 through Assemblyman Gallagher, and we are so grateful for any and all support towards regional solutions and recovery, including AB 36, which would provide the potential to use design-build contracting in the delivery of the Paradise Sewer Project or the Paradise Irrigation District Water Project. But these two projects are not tied together when it comes to construction. Commingling water and wastewater in a joint trench is just not something that's feasible, recommended, and something that's not being proposed. Our project is in the full-blown EIR stage, and I am not aware of the current status of your effort, but I know that these are separate, and we can do a good job moving forward to try and clarify that messaging to the community. We've heard a lot of questions and a lot of concerns that the Paradise Sewer Project would be growth-inducing in town, and we welcome that. We want recovery, we want growth, and we want denser housing in Paradise. That's a part of the mission here. But when it comes to growth between the two communities, as a hypothetical sewer transmission line would go between Paradise and Chico, there's this automatic assumption that there's something bigger going on, that we're trying to build high-rise apartments between the two communities on Tuscan Ridge or any other development opportunity between Chico and Paradise, and that is not the case. Any sort of development effort like that would need its own EIR and is not included and scoped in ours. So please rest assured with that. I think those are the two biggies.
Yep.
Thank
you.
Yes, I'd be glad to answer any other questions.
I don't have any. I appreciate doing that point of clarification because we're definitely hearing that as well.
Yes. All right. Well, moving forward, I will go ahead and jump to road recovery update. And on the micro level, I'll start at the downtown projects with Almond Street, Birch, Fir, Foster, and Black Olive, kind of the primary downtown between Skyway, Black Olive, Elliott, and Pearson. As you are aware, the town received a grant back in 2016 for 2 projects, 2 subsequent grants, which include sidewalk, curb gutter, bike lanes, bike paths, lighting, landscaping, drainage facilities, and we've had a long-term vision of partnering these projects with road rehab funds, initially Measure C, and we're looking at a different approach now, but to provide the comprehensive downtown vision and creating and especially inviting in the post context of or post campfire context is creating an inviting infrastructure for people to invest in the downtown, whether it be multifamily housing with the sewer or other recovery opportunities for a new downtown paradise. So with that, we put the project on hold in response to the campfire, and then recently made a decision that we are going to move forward as we received some pressure to deliver the projects again from 2016. So through a different variety of bidding processes, we actually had to go out to bid 3 times, but ultimately where we landed was in the best interest of the town, which we are pleased to award a contract with Knife River Construction. And I should mention as well, we have partnered this long-term effort with an underground utility district, again, in advance of the fire. This was by law through the CPUC, the Rule 28 program. And PG&E, Comcast have undergrounded their facilities and are off the above aerial poles in the downtown, and only AT&T remains, and we are working with them to get those underground. So moving forward, we have awarded a contract and we are ready to go to construction again, Knife River, and we have a coordination meeting, I believe, later this week with them, but we've been talking with them along the way, as I know, along with our other utility coordination, that Paradise Irrigation District is looking at a much needed water line replacement for a variety of reasons on Almond Street. And again, one of the benefits of Knife River Construction, they've made it clear to us that they're aware of your project that is currently out to bid. Just about, yeah. Okay, just out to bid for the water main replacement on Almond Street. And Knife River is aware, certainly their contractors for underground work. Again, we're doing drainage underground work. There might be opportunities for synergy there between the 2 contractors, but they know they're going to go through a bidding process through the public contract code. And however the chips fall, they are prepared to move forward and be flexible. And I say that the initial thought process is they're going to mobilize their underground contractors for the storm drain facilities on Almond Street first, while I understand you have a 5-week bid time. And so if we issue the notice to proceed today and they get started in a couple of weeks, they're going to go all in on underground storm drain on Almond Street first. And hopefully by that time, PID will have their contractor and their water main replacement in order, and perhaps grant funding and everything to go forward. So then by the time they are done with storm drain, PID's contractor could do the water main replacement, while our contractor could be working on Birch Fir, Foster, and Black Olive elsewhere. And then, as you could imagine, we'd hope PID's contractor would finish. Then once all of the underground is finished on the entire project, then we can look at the actual sidewalks, the kind of the hardscape infrastructure and the road rehab to finish the project. So we want to thank you for your coordination and collaboration. We know it's a difficult situation, especially managing normal day-to-day obligations of operating infrastructure. And we certainly are partners in this. And if there's anything I can do for our team to coordinate better on the project and keep you informed, please let me know. We will certainly do our best and move forward together on this one, because we know when we work together like this, that we will be left with the best project that we could possibly achieve that will benefit the Ridge for decades to come, and really be that inviting space for investment into the downtown. So if there's any questions on the Almond Street project, I can answer those now before I move to kind of the broader townwide vision. Okay, well, from there, I guess I will say that we have 2 approved projects through on-system, FHWA, Federal Highways, and Caltrans. Those are our busiest collectors and arterials, and then I'd say everything else. And everything else is funded by FEMA in our public assistance claims. Combined between the two sources, we're looking at about an $80 million road rehab project aggregate amount for Paradise. And so as we move forward, the downtown Almond Street gap closure project is really, it's a kind of a one-off, and that we're looking to get this done now. But we really do, that's made possible through the undergrounding of utilities in advance in coordination with you. Moving forward, we're continuing to work with PG&E and Comcast, who has agreed to join the joint trench as well. They're catching up, and then we're still hopeful AT&T will do the same very soon. But ultimately, we're looking at finishing design on all of these projects for town-wide road rehab that's site-specific to each individual road, definitely by the end of this year. We have a deadline for on-system roads to be done by essentially July, so we can get approval in September, and then that opens the construction window, which is for years and years out. So to manage that, we're creating kind of a checklist, a roadway readiness checklist, if it's ready for the delivery of the final product, right? For us, that's a variety of things, including PG&E undergrounding, Comcast, AT&T, their work, PID, your water service lateral, water main replacements, anything you're looking at, and then tree removal being done. You know, if we get overwhelmed, maybe we'll prioritize rebuild status. You know, if there's some roads that are just further along with recovery than others, we can move them up and start delivering instead of like one massive contract at the end for $80 million, which would be very difficult for the community and the town, delivering these roads as they get ready. But really none of them are going to be ready in our mind until 2023 through 2025. And so we're holding coordination meetings with PG&E, we're kind of seeing them as our lead partner in the timing of these recovery projects and where they're dedicating their resources. But we're inviting Comcast into that table, and certainly would welcome the same with Paradise Irrigation District. So the longest term vision I can say is the Paradise, when it's all said and done, will have the best roadway infrastructure in the North State, if not in California. And so that's certainly a goal that we're not taking lightly and excited to deliver for the community moving forward. So I guess that would close my updates, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. Oh, sure. Yeah, there is just so much. So again, pre-fire, one of these projects alone would just have us so excited. But now there's just so many, and we are equally as excited, but it's just a lot to keep track of. So we received a $1.8 million EDA, Economic Development Administration Transportation Master Plan grant. And so this grant is essentially hits, I think, 7 or 8 of our long-term recovery plan priorities set forth through the development process back in 2019 for that plan. Long dead-end streets, circulation issues, evacuation issues, survey, economic development issues. So this EDA funded grant is a really unique opportunity to respond to the Camp Fire and then again plan long-term. So on the highest levels, we are looking at this study to prioritize a list of known projects where we need to recommend road widenings or new connections or engaging with private property owners about purchasing property for new roads or taking private roads off their hands and inviting that for public use and circulation. And so the study is going to include those as well as revamped internal and external evacuation plans and reviews. Again, being fully prepared for that all at once scenario, if that ever were to happen again, and have that fully documented and really guide our corrective action plan. And I'm sure you are aware the after action report and corrective action plans are in the process of being developed and released. And so this EDA Transportation Master Plan really has a unique opportunity to help us through that process and then get us ready for new funding sources such as CDBG, DR, Community Development Block Grant, Disaster Recovery. And there's $331 million in infrastructure set aside for affected communities. And as I believe the most affected community, we're in a really good position to secure funds for those projects, such as widening on Neal Road, Upper Skyway, Clark, Pence, and those corridors that really make a difference, and look at, again, those new connections that that really could help long-term for the town in future evacuation events. This whole process, we're not going to wait. It's going to take about a year from today to complete, but we're not waiting along the way. We have a prioritized set of deliverables, and we could see early returns on that as soon as April, but they'll be phased throughout the next year, and I will be presenting and providing updates for the community and the council on that progress. But the high points, there's a lot more in there. There's individual little micro plans within the transportation master plans that really are going to help put us in the best position to get new grants as well. And EDA themselves, as a funding agency, again, thank you so much. And they've told us they want us to see this plan done and really not just be a book on the library shelf, and have us put forward additional projects for actual construction and implementation. So again, there's a bright future. I know we can all see it for Paradise, but we're just got to continue to get people to join our vision here. So thank you for your time. Any other last questions before I turn it over?
I want to follow up.
Okay.
Since we have to use the mic.
Yes, please do.
For those who don't know me, I'm Tom Landau, I'm the interim district manager. I actually think I've met everybody. Couple things. On the road projects, it really would be helpful, and I guess I'm talking to you, Mark, to get a capital improvement list so we can do a better job of coordinating the underground improvements. So that's why I wanted to jump up, because it was timely. But also talk about Assembly Bill 36. The district is certainly included in terms of design build for a water line. The board hasn't talked about it, at least while I've been there, and there are no immediate plans. There are a ton of rumors, just as you mentioned, that Chico's going to grow to 150,000. 250,000 is what Richard Harriman told me because of the water line. The water line, I think, is mutually beneficial because the groundwater in Chico is being depleted, and this would recharge it. But I also want to make you aware, so you're not surprised, that the Tuscan Ridge project has already been approved by the county for 160 units as phase one. In fact, they're filing the final map.
And that approval was quite some time ago, right?
I believe it was.
It was pre-fire, long
everything.
before that, yeah.
But the owner, a gentleman by the name of Mo West, who is a longtime developer, is proceeding. He actually had a meeting with me because he is interested in the district providing maintenance for his water system. It was a first discussion. There's no decision been made at all. But I didn't want you to be caught off guard when something popped up. And again, there are all sorts of rumors. Sue Hildebrand has a radio show, and she thinks that the district is already building the line. So just a lot of misconception. And then regarding the sewer, since I was intimately involved in the sewer for years and years and years in the city of Chico, the water that comes out of the plant is actually cleaner than the water in the Sacramento River. And at one point, we tried to sell the wastewater. So putting it back in the ground after treatment is not a terrible idea.
On that last point, I do agree that certain levels of treatment can provide drinking level quality water and groundwater recharge, but that I just wanted it to be clear that that was not something that is scoped in our EIR as far as any relation to groundwater in the Paradise Sewer Project. The only relationship to groundwater for the Paradise Sewer Project, and this is important, is that we're cleaning it and getting it higher quality for our one basin and getting people who have on-site wastewater systems, especially denser uses, off of septic systems. Okay. With that said, absolutely, we can and will coordinate long-term. A component of that transportation master plan is really laying out that vision of the checklist that I was talking about for road readiness and recovery efforts. And we will come up with a process to name the streets by year, by month, and really look ahead and work together. All right, thank you.
Good morning. I get to do the tree update. So we've been dealing with trees quite a bit this last probably 3 to 4 months. Currently, Cal OES and Cal Recycle are about 95% done with marking of trees, and they're approximately 20% done with the falling of trees. The biggest thing that we've been dealing with is what we call IST trees, immediate threat trees. trees that are close to proximity to homes that homeowners are feeling threatened by those trees. So we've been trying to prioritize those and move Callaway-S into that direction. They've been working with us somewhat, and we're trying to get those trees kind of down quicker, kind of get the threat down. The one thing is that originally they were allowing the tree to stay on the property for 48 hours before they took it. The change that you might see is they might be on the ground a little bit longer now. So they have about 7 days in their contract to allow them to stay on the ground. To gain efficiencies, we've kind of loosened up those reins to say, yeah, keep them on the ground for seven days to try to get more trees down and then come back with one big fell swoop to pull them up. Weather's been an issue, so there has been a slowdown in that. Right now, they are still projecting the end of June to have all the trees down. So we'll see. The one thing is we're trying to coordinate with them also on our unenrolled properties. So currently, the town has about 1,000 unenrolled or non-compliant properties. So ones that were in the private program that didn't get signed off, and others that just never enrolled in anything. So we are working through lists right now feverishly to try to get people to do something. So we are trying to beg the state to get them enrolled into the program, or we're asking them what their plan is. The one thing is we have reached out to quite a few, and most of them are engaged, so which is good because at least they're answering their phone. They're not ignoring you. They're not telling you that I'm not doing anything with it. So we're hoping to get those people to actually comply with something to get their trees down. Because the abatement process is going to be a long, tedious process and very expensive. So the council's been working through that process to try to get a plan in place to make sure that we're reaching out to these individuals. So if you guys know anybody who's not enrolled, please have them contact our tree advocates over here, and they can maybe set up a plan for them to get them enrolled into a program so that we can get these trees down. Speaking of trees too, is that the state program is the tier 3 trees. So any tree that might affect a public right-of-way. A public right-of-way is any street that had trash service on it. That's how they defined it. And so those are the trees that are coming out through this program. The town does have a hazard mitigation grant that's in place. It hasn't been all the way approved, but we're working through the approval process to take out the tier 4 trees, which are the back 40 trees. We're hoping to have that grant rolled out here in the next couple months so that people can enroll and get those back 40 trees taken out. It'll be a 75-25 cost split, but we're hoping to get all the trees out of town within at least a year process so that we help, revitalize and get all these threats down. So that's where we're at with trees. Is there any questions on trees?
You said the 75-25, is that split, who's paying the 25?
Property owner.
Okay.
Yep, at this point. So we're in the process of getting approval for the planning side of it so that we can plan. What we're hoping to do is push out some type of survey or a quick kind of sign-up process so that we're not going through a full sign-up, that it's just an interest into it, so we can get that over to FEMA for them to be able to basically go, okay, we got 500 property owners that are interested in this, so then we can fund it appropriately on. Hoping to roll something.
Kevin, do you know how many crews Callaway-S currently has in town?
Right now.
So they added one since the council meeting.
So the complexity of this project is arborist Mark, with all of the environmental biologists on site, waterways. So the process between complexity. Trying to be as efficient as possible, but also Other recovery updates. First, housing. So the town did receive PR grant. That's for the multifamily directly sourced. We're now taking to get a project or program open to start putting on the street. The other thing is residential that offers grants possibly up to $200,000 based on two individuals to rebuild their home on their property. Those funds have not been released yet, but they should be. So we are anxiously awaiting those. Those will be handled through the state itself and if not, they'll be able to get these people those resources. Our housing department has tons of resources there to support housing grants over there. There's a whole bunch of housing stuff going on. Help for housing departments. We are again updating. So, paradise.com. We're hoping to have something on there like all the different things. So if someone's looking for financial aid or support, on our website. Paradise has a whole bunch. Brooks program has a whole bunch of programs. So just kind of a one-stop shop.
Are you going to be doing some media on that? I don't think it's very well known around town, even though it's in, it's in the town update, but there's a lot of people who have no clue that we have all that. And some TV spots might be, we used to do the noon news.
Right. Yeah, we can get that housing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know about it.
Get that out a little more.
Do you have any help for any commercial?
Right now, we don't. Our funds, that's how. For the hazard mitigation grants that we have out there, we went through a early warning planning grant that looked at an early warning system town. Told they are back. Try to get have the ability to have a siren on just one tower. You could do a line of towers. You could do all the siren capability. Basically. So it would be able to give voice commands on we also have an for the houses that survive. So what we did here is we looked at survivability of homes based on age. And the houses that were built had a much higher standard. So we applied for a grant to be able to bring the houses that were not built to that standard up to that standard. And so we're developing a program right now to identify different areas that we would be able to offer money to homeowners to upgrade their houses. That includes windows, roofs, decking, project right now. We're working through a field reduction grant project right now. Process of better to back.
We have a great little garden.
Yeah, demonstration garden.
Maybe you've heard of it.
And Kevin, what's the timeline on the ignition resistance grants? What,
Working through, we're actually
okay.
back into it seems like all of our grants. So and then we are in the process of doing at developing a model to see how far the pieces we were backfilled on the property tax for years this year. We also received so now we're looking at how do we reserve those so that whatever the pen. How fast, how long can we sustain looking at all the variables of the rebuild? Where do we really want our resources going? Do we need roofs or do we need this gives us the ability to stay in variables and see how do those so this model will give us that to be able to
Covered it well.
Okay, I think that covers the town update, and that brings us to the PID update.
It needs more.
Not working.
Sounds like it's working now.
That sounds like it's working.
Let's give it a try.
Yeah, probably a good call. That's perfect, yeah. All right, good morning. So on the agenda here, we have just a general, basically financial update for PID. So I'll walk you through some of the key components right now. So our cash position as of the end of January was just over $12 million. So we're seeing that still hold pretty strong through this current fiscal year. From a customer perspective, we've seen about a quarter of our original customers disconnect permanently from their services. So that's about 2,250 customers that we've seen disconnect. On the flip side of that, we've had about 2,500 that we've been able to return to active service. So that's been through replacing their service lines or testing their service lines and clearing those for potability. So that's been a great positive that we've seen through this recovery process so far. That basically leaves about 5,750 customers that are currently on the readiness to serve rate. So they don't have potable service right now, but they also haven't permanently disconnected. So we're working to return those customers to potable service as soon as possible. Basically, where that leaves us is about 5,375 what I call active customer equivalents. So that's basically the number of customers that are essentially paying the active rate when you look at the active customers as well as the readiness to serve customers combined. So that leaves us at approximately half of where we were pre-fire currently. The other portion of our revenues that we saw pre-fire was consumption revenues. We were originally hoping that those would be back online at the beginning of this current calendar year. However, it's taken us a little bit longer to develop our meter replacement project and working with FEMA. So we're actually looking at probably around the beginning of next fiscal year that we'll start to see those consumption revenues come back. From an insurance perspective, we have received about $3.5 million in revenue backfill, which is we have a couple large still outstanding. First of which we're kind of in the final stages of working through that. Probably
Okay, let's,
looks like it's on.
do we have batteries? Let's just replace them.
That works. Keep me out of the hot seat.
Push in.
Don't know.
Excuse me, could we have your name, please?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm Ross Gilb, Finance and Accounting Manager with PID. Yeah.
Hi, Ross.
Nice to meet you. All right. So I think where I left off there was just our kind of outstanding insurance claims. So the meter replacement claim being our largest, and we are still working on finalizing a few minor claims like our fencing and some repairs for our water treatment plant. A couple other updates that I'll give is relating to our pending FEMA claims. So we have received about $3.7 million in FEMA funds. This was primarily relating to emergency response efforts following the fire and around that 1-year time frame after the fire. The biggest pending FEMA projects that we have currently are our service line replacement and main line replacement claims. Those total about $128 million. And again, we're hoping to see those claims finalized and funds hopefully made available to the district by the end of this fiscal year. The last item that I will update on as far as finances is our PG&E claim. The due date to have this finalized and submitted was actually last Friday. So we were able to get this in time, and this is where we're looking for the majority of our surplus backfill. So this included about $135 million in backfill, which was projected based on a 30-year revenue backfill. And it also included a $140 million property damage claim that largely overlaps with our FEMA claim, so we kind of have dual coverage there.
And how much did you say the total claim was?
So the total claim was around $270 million. And that is kind of the overall summary from a financial perspective. I'd be happy to answer any other questions if there are any, though.
You mentioned that the backfill's all gone. So how are you staying afloat now?
So that is kind of the big question, I guess, on all our minds at this point. We're kind of looking primarily at that PG&E claim. We do have substantial reserves currently, which will kind of buy us some time to figure out our financial sustainability study, which I believe Tom will talk about, and other options that are available to the district.
So are you in the same position as all the other claimants where they're going to, sometime between now and July, you'll probably find out what your offer is, but then you're going to see that money in 4 installments?
Yes, we are
Probably.
in that same boat.
Okay.
What is your current, like, how many people do you currently have back online right now?
So we've returned right around 2,500 customers back to active or potable service. So about a quarter of where we were pre-fire.
Have emailed this before. This is a quick summary of the sustainability or options. So what I handed out was the information from CSU Sacramento regarding the, got 15 different names, but option study. And they've selected a consultant to do that study, GEI, and I don't know what that stands for, but what I included there was some of the resumes, the time frame, and the cost, just for your interest. Theoretically, and I find this hard to believe, but theoretically they're going to be done by November of this year. The first public, they have 4 public meetings scheduled. First one, actually, I think is supposed to happen week after next, but they don't have a signed contract, so I'm not sure how that's going to occur. Sac State is running this study, a gentleman by the name of Randy Marks. Kevin's included in all the conversations. I think Mark maybe too. There's not much more to update beyond that. People have questions, happy to try and answer them.
What are the options that they're looking at?
They're going to go through the, I assume, the full, who should provide water, how should it be provided, should PID remain independent, should it become a department of the town, any option to provide water to the community is what they're supposed to be looking at.
To provide water in a sustainable manner because you lost 3/4 of your customers.
Exactly. My own opinion is that PID is fully sustainable as is. I fully expect to get some settlement from PG&E. What the actual number is, who knows? But I do believe that the district is self-sustainable, and I think that from the district's perspective, there's a desire to remain independent. But we'll certainly see what this study shows.
Are they going to look at the benefits other than your own sustainability that might come, say, from consolidation with the town?
Yes. And in fact, the study is actually called Options to Provide Water to the Town of Paradise. It's not a PID study.
I could see some synergies between the town and PID in terms of assets, the use of assets, the staffing, things that would save the taxpayers and the ratepayers money if we were combined, and I was just curious if they would be looking at those things.
I believe they will be. And I would say, as long as I have the forum here, it may also be true in terms of sewer that works the other direction. You know, maybe PID becomes a water and sewer district. Have to see what the maintenance is and the responsibilities there and the costs there.
Yes, there are a lot of variations on ways we could make this a lot more efficient for the people of Paradise. So,
Agreed. And I think that's everybody's goal. I don't
Good.
think any disagreement at all.
I'm looking forward to the study, and I'm glad that they're going to be doing it in such a expeditious manner.
We'll see about that. I've seen these timeframes before. But yes, the timeframe is very expeditious. I believe there is. I believe there is.
Yes.
Yeah.
This expeditious manner has been going on for 2 years.
Well, you've awarded a contract now, though, right?
It's actually being run through Sacramento State. We're one of the participants. Again, the label of the study is how to provide water to the town of Paradise. We are simply one of the cooperators.
So who let the contract then?
Sac State.
CSU Sacramento is in charge. They were charged by the state to run this study. They're the ones letting the contract.
I can see why you're skeptical.
So Jody, this, basically our backfill money came with some terms.
Right.
And one of the things was we had to participate in this study, whether it be in our best interest or theirs. You know, whether it's Cal Water that takes it over or whether we're.
None of us want that.
No. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand how cheap Paradise's water is.
Let me echo that. As a Cal Water consumer, it's really funny to me to hear people complain about the water rates up here. since I pay about $90 a month for my water. So it's just unbelievable to me that people here have any concern about the water rates they pay now.
And having lived in Chico for a year and a half before I could come back to Paradise, the water's horrible. You're paying huge amounts of money for water that doesn't even taste good.
So the Local Agency Formation Commissioner, LAFCO, oversees any type of organization, reorganization that occurs. So depending on what their recommendation is, and then ultimately what both the town and district decide to do, LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission, will have a role, and they will review the study, and they'll make their own recommendations. I think I want to leave it at that, because there's some other technicalities about what they could do. I don't believe they will, but I don't want to alarm people. But LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission, is responsible for the boundaries and makeup of all jurisdictions in every county. We have a Butte County LAFCO. A gentleman by the name of Steve Lucas is executive director.
And the town's representative on LAFCO is Greg Bolin.
And the two special district reps, one was Al McGrean from the Park District. I think his term may be up. I don't remember all the other representatives. Okay. Okay. I assume he'll probably be reappointed. All right. Mickey, you want to talk about water supply recovery?
Nice to stand, as long as everybody can hear me. Hi, for those who haven't met me, my name is Mickey Rich. I'm the temporary assistant district manager for the district. As far as water recovery, if you have visited PID's website recently in the past, 3 or 4 months, you notice there's been a shift from the early messages where we talked a lot about concerns over water quality to we have water quality firmly taken care of, and we're in a very good place, and our recovery has shifted towards supporting the homeowner and the resident and the business owner getting their service started and reconnecting water. So as far, we have a big interim water hookup, so that's where people need to purchase a backflow device in order to get water service. We've installed close to 25, actually we have 2,600 requests for interim water, which is kind of a good sign. And that has been going along with very similar numbers to what we see in permits. At one point, we were fighting just to keep up with that. Now we have about 50 outstanding interim water orders, and we continue to see about 30 orders a month. So we have shifted from keeping up with those to getting ahead of the game. So how it works now is we are notified as soon as somebody pulls a permit, and then as soon as we know that somebody has requested a permit, even before the town has approved that building permit, we schedule the work to replace that service lateral, install that backflow device, and make sure they have water well before they need it. Water quality assurance. We have lifted the water quality advisory for every standing home, and the service lateral replacement is the final step to make sure that people have clean water before they get their certificate of occupancy when they are rebuilding. We have a rigorous water quality assurance monitoring program where we will be testing 1,300 water quality sites within the town within 2 years. To put that into perspective, pre-fire, they would test, I think, close to 400 a year, 400 samples. We're doing many, many more samples over 2 years, and the results of that water quality assurance monitoring program is going to determine the level of sampling we do that we end up doing in the long run. So, for instance, Right now, we're not seeing any water quality issues at all. And as our engineer said so nicely, he said, we find nothing but clean water. So we continue doing the assurance monitoring. If we do, for instance, get a bad hit, then we will retest and monitor more closely. But we feel the way it's looking now is that within 2 years, we'll be back to our regular monitoring program. Any questions about water quality?
I have a question regarding the backflow devices.
Sure.
So I think there was some miscommunication that if residents continued to pay their just regular water bill, that they would not have to pay for their backflow devices. So how does that work exactly?
The backflow device is an additional mechanism that is not included in the regular water service and the cost of it. So we are working with, we do have a hazard mitigation claim with FEMA to offset the cost of that. We have not received those funds yet. So part of how we reimburse customers or pay for that has to do a little bit with the FEMA funds as they come in. The hope now, and the district board members were pretty adamant in that if we get the FEMA reimbursement, then that money goes back to the customer for their purchase.
So then why would customers continue to pay their water bill if they're not actively have an inhabitable home on their property? Because that was part of what we were told as customers, that if you continue to pay your bill, then you won't have to incur these extra charges when you rebuild. But if that's not the case, then why would customers continue to pay?
Well, backflow is just one part of the level of service and the cost of service that goes into delivering water. The benefit to remaining a customer and paying a bill even when you're not is that you're basically paying your portion for the infrastructure investment. Here's one scenario. Let's say a customer decides if we're going to put in a new main line on a street or upgrade a main because, as building codes have affected the amount of water that people need, some of the capacity changes. So for instance, a 4-inch line that used to serve 10 customers can now only serve 7 customers. So if you are a paying customer and you are still investing in that infrastructure, it's easy for us to factor you in. So we will factor in, we know that 7 people have said that they want to continue water service on that. Then when we are making our decisions, that gets factored in. But if somebody disconnects and the town basically builds up around them and that capacity is not reserved for them, then there's going to be additional cost, similar to when you first connect service when they want to come back. Does that make sense, or?
No.
I think interim is one issue and disconnecting is a different. And so
Correct.
initially people were told, encouraged to stay on versus disconnecting because of a potential of a $500 reconnection fee. So whether you sold the property or you kept the property, if you completely disconnected, to reconnect, there would be that potential fee. The interim water device is a lesser, it's 200, depending on the diameter.
Yeah,
if
it's
you have
it's about $550 for that device installed.
Right, and that ensures that there's no potential for contamination back to the main water.
You're talking about the backflow device.
The backflow devices.
So I guess what my point was is for residents to continue their service, it's like, what is their benefit at this point? And most of the houses that are being rebuilt now are more water efficient than the prior homes were. So
Except with the addition of fire sprinklers.
Right.
well, that's
And flow
only if they
testing.
flood.
But it has to have the potential, we have to have the potential to flow that much water.
Got it.
So the original deal was, the way that we put it out there, was if you're going to rebuild within the next 5 years, pay the $40. If you're not,
Every 2 months.
yeah, go ahead and disconnect. Because we had talked originally about it being about a $1,200 reconnect fee, which since then we've been able to reduce. But the original message, and again, you know how rumors go.
That's why I'm trying to
goes,
clear it up.
Yeah, was basically if you're coming back keep paying that $20, $40 every other month. If you're coming back. If you're not, it'd be more feasible for you.
Okay.
And there was, again, what you heard was a lot of misinformation, rumors, and then also it's changed on our side. Because originally we were looking at, it's gonna be about $1,200, maybe even $1,800 to reconnect. Well, that's not the case anymore. So it's evolved. Like first night that Kevin stood up in front of everybody and said, I don't know. You know, we're all in this together and we're gonna figure it out and we're gonna go forward, but I don't know. So our side has evolved daily.
And I'll say, one of the big pushes too is to ensure that once we know what's happening with the hazard mitigation funding from FEMA, that folks who have paid for those backflow devices will get a credit for the actual device, not for the entire cost because there's still staff time involved, but they'll get that, see that reimbursement back on their bill in the future. I think the other portion too that's important to remember is keeping that interim water on your property really helps for ensuring there's water there for if they're burning on their property and vegetation management on their property, which we all know is a big issue in the community.
So originally also we felt like we were big key was the backflow device. This was a new device that was
Have to come over here. We will solve this microphone issue.
Okay. All right. So this was a new device that was required for that homeowner. The biggest thing of staying on that interim or what's the non-active or whatever, the ready to serve charge is you get water on your property, right? And a lot of people, the biggest key was when people were coming back was, I want water. I have landscape that survived. I have trees I need to water. I want some way to continue water on my property. So the idea was to keep a half rate, no water consumption charge to allow these individuals, but they had to purchase the new device, right? Under our FEMA grant or FEMA claim, we said, well, to mitigate against contamination into the future, you should pay for this device also. But you don't bet on FEMA to reimburse you and just carry that burden forward. So the district made a decision to charge it up front, and then with the thought that if that comes back through that hazard mitigation grant that you're reimbursed for it, then those customers then would be refunded for that. And then obviously all new ones would be the incremental charge of whatever the FEMA granted. So that was the biggest thing. The other thing too was it was a business, right? We lost all our customers, right? So we had to make a decision to say, okay, what is going to be palatable for the customer, but it's also palatable for the district to sustain themselves, right? And so there's still infrastructure out there. There's still things that, as you hook up at your house, that you have all this infrastructure that's running under the ground, that's up at the treatment plant, all these things that are part of that. And we felt like, as a opportunity for that person to receive water, there's still a buy-in based on the infrastructure. So that was the thought process behind it all, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does, and I think what I'm hearing from residents now is that, we continue to pay our $40 every 2 months, and why are we doing that? What's our benefit?
Wow, on your property.
But they're not using it.
Water for future building.
And what we told customers, sorry, I know Mike, you make.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, in the future, they need a sustainable water district, whoever provides that water. And this is critical to doing it. We need those partial fees to remain fiscally sound.
And I agree with that, But then again, what are our residents getting for that? I think that's the question. I think a lot of residents are like, hey, I'll continue to give the district $20 a month, just to keep them going. But then it hits a point of, okay, now we're going to have rate increases, or now you're going to have to pay for this extra. Because I just rebuilt my house and I had to go back and pay for everything again. And so I guess that's a trade-off that I'm asking.
Yeah, and that's actively being discussed, right?
I think one of those benefits is that the water district stays solvent and you can actually sell your property if you don't intend to rebuild. Because if we don't have a solvent water district, your land is worthless.
But there's a lot of ways to make sure.
And you're right, we need to make sure that people know why that fee is being charged and incentive for them to pay it. We're talking about those. The other on this list, I think we've already covered, which is coordination of joint projects. It's very helpful when both of us work together so we know what projects are upcoming. So both plan those projects and plan the capital expenditures. And then Shelby, you also had mentioned fire hydrants. So I wanted to elaborate on that. You sent me a note. I think we're coordinated on it. I just want to make sure.
I think I sent you something on a different topic.
Okay, perfect. All we have.
I think that brings us to the end of the agenda unless anyone up here has something else they'd like to talk about. I would. I think these meetings are really helpful, and especially as we're going through a sustainability study, you are. There's a lot going on. I think it's really helpful to get these updates that we can share with the rest of our boards. So we had been meeting quarterly, I think. Does that make sense to everyone?
I support that plan, and I just also, if there's interest or desire, we also have a boardroom that has connectivity and doesn't have so many microphone challenges usually.
We
So
definitely could move back and forth and kind of share
Something to
this.
consider.
So this is the 1st of March, so we would be looking at the 1st of June or July.
I might suggest that you do it first week of July because both groups will have their budgets together. Right.
And that Monday's a holiday.
That takes us out 4 months too.
Yeah, let's keep it
Okay,
June.
you want to do June, that's fine.
June 7th.
June 7th is the day before our council. I know you have a lot of one-on-ones that day.
Do the 14th.
Um,
June 1st.
June 1st is a Tuesday.
What about the 31st? Oh, that's Memorial Day.
No. I will be on vacation, thank you.
Does the 7th work for you, Kevin? It's fine, you can, okay. So let's say that 10 a.m. on June 7th, Monday.